Good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome to the South African conversation, where we'll be talking about fashion, South Africa's partnership or relationship with BRICS, as well as other things that you'd want to possibly know about South Africa, because we will open the floor for some questions. On the panel, we've got myself, Molife Kumona, the editor at GQ South Africa. We've got Stephen Manzini, who is the CEO of South Africa Soweto Fashion Week. We have Tinyiko Baloyi, who's a lecturer at the Faculty of Fashion and Design at the University of Johannesburg. We have Vusi Ngobani, who is the head of the National Department of Sports and Arts and Culture. We have David Tlale, who is an award-winning South African designer. Then we've got Greg Margelis, who is the head of institution at Cape Town College of Fashion Design. All right. So I'll just get straight into it. Let me start with you, Stephen. Speaking of South African fashion, right? How is South African fashion different on the global stage? And I would like to also ask David and Craig the same question.
South African fashion is, it's unique. You've seen how our designers, I'm glad that David is here. The bold prints, the traditional, the culture of South Africa, it's so diverse. You find that a lot of designers are inspired by stories. They're inspired by their cultural background, and that, helps them and pushes them to create an outfit that is unique. And most of our designers that are unique, it's based on how they interpret their fashions. And South Africa, as we all know, it's a very diverse. We've got most of the skin colors and the cultures of the world that reside in South Africa, and that has built that rapport in terms of being an international player in terms of fashion and design. So.
David, what would you say differentiates South African fashion on a global scale?
I think what really sets us apart as a country is that our diverse traditions, our cultural heritage that we have, and also how we have evolved as a country from apartheid, getting our democracy to where we are today, and how our story has actually changed over the years. And we're redefining South Africa or Africa in a manner that, we started out as a country with possibilities, and now we are inventing ways of doing things. When you've always thought about South Africa or Africa, people always thought about the jungle, but we've evolved beyond the big five. Yeah. We understand who we are, where we come from, and the most important or even interesting part is that as a country or as a creative sector, we are now telling our own stories the way we know them, instead of our stories being told by other people in the past. To say, when you think of a designer from South Africa, you're going to see Seshweshwe or Xhosa or whatever. Yes, we still embrace all that, but we're telling it in a beautiful way. And also I would say, as a country or as a fashion industry, we've come a long way. We've seen ourselves evolving from colonization to being proudly South African, and how our fashions have taken a center stage from our parliaments to our wedding celebrations and into our daily lives. And dealing with the current generation, we see young people personalizing being South African in terms of being eclectic, using different cultures or traditions on a daily basis, whether they're going to the market or they're just going out on a night out, you'd see them fusing different textures and also fashions in one look. And that distinctly says, I am South African and I'm an individual, and I would like to stand for who I am, and this is what I am.
Yeah. And Greg, as head of institution at the Cape Town College of Fashion Design, how do you see the differentiation of South African fashion showing up in the work that you do and with the students?
I'd like to first pick up from what David was saying about finally we are proud of our heritage and that the cool kids are no longer looking outside of the country to be cool. That's first and foremost. What forges South African identity is actually a lack of economy. We don't have access to resources and we don't have access to technology. That means that we have to be smart. And being a continent of storytelling, and that is the thread that you've picked up throughout, is that is our lean-to, where we have a distinct heritage. We've grown up with craft. Craft for cultural identity, craft to create economy, and craft that reflects our country. That gives us an advantage alongside with our huge legacy of storytelling to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the world. And then just a kudos to us as South Africans, we damn hard workers and we relentless. So I think there's a very big difference in our approach to everything that we do.
I think as a magazine editor, I have seen that the South African consumer is one that is highly connected. They're connected to the world, but they're also rooted in their local vibe, if I can put it that way. Tinyiko, taking it to you, in terms of key cultural codes for the South African consumer, what have you seen in your years doing what you do?
I think it's interesting because I feel like culture is something that is in flux. It's moving, it's exciting. There are elements of heritage, but I think for me, because there is still some youthfulness in me, the cultures that I'm drawn to are very much youth cultures, street cultures. So these are things that we are creating ourselves, but things that are bringing us together. So within that space, we like to move. So the garments we wear are going to be expressive, and they are going to generate that kind of movement and connection with other people. So I wouldn't necessarily say a little beadwork here, but I think I'd say an openness to wanting to express who you are. And particularly now, there really isn't a limit to what I could say South African youth culture is. There are ties to maybe elements of how we may participate in things, and then those are the things that inform the garments we decide to make. But I think we just want to make up our own minds about what we want to wear. But there is a definite South Africanness in the way that we do it, which I think is articulated in the spirit of the wearer.
Yeah. And Vusi, from the Department of Arts and Culture perspective, how are we promoting South Africa as a production hub as well as a creative hub, especially to the global audience?
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. Well, as a country, I think we are a country that is very creative and very innovative. And I think for some time we are also participating in terms of the, leading in terms of how, we utilize technology. And I think if you look at the South Africa being part of the SADC and also being in the Global South, we are a country which is also a gateway for the global south to come in. And I think, with the culture that we showcase, the heritage that we have, and the diverse language and what we showcase, and look at how, fashion has, in fact, being the key that, can be able to drive also some of that.
And Stephen, what would you say is the role of storytelling in building a bridge between South Africa, where some people who are here would probably have never been, to BRICS? Like, what is that role of storytelling?
Well, it plays a very big role. I mean, if we look at the Russian market, I think we are very similar. We have similarities with the Russian culture. We've seen, I know right now, because of the weather, there's probably a lot of Gothic wear on the streets. But certain times and seasons, you'll find that a lot of colors are on the streets with the Russian market. And I mean, if you look at, I know most people, when you say Russian fashion, you look at the Soviet Union, but there was a time before Soviet Union, and we're seeing a lot of that in the exhibition stands with the Russian. And I think there's a lot to tell regarding them and us as South Africa. So, I mean, the era of, I think it was very interesting to see the cultures in different regions in Russia. And that's similar to what's in South Africa, where you have the tribe that whether you're from a certain tribe or the tribe that we have in the country, they also contribute to the storytelling. The Xhosas have their tribe, the Zulus, the Pedi. So, I mean, in the Tsongas, they have the color blocking. So we have all those elements, and they also have certain elements in the different regions that they have. In the era of Peter the Great, if you look at the history of the Russians, and that was sort of overtaken by the Soviet Union style. So, I mean, it's very interesting to see that, and you see that in South Africa. And you look at BRICS, you look at the BRICS countries, Brazil, streetwear, we have streetwear, a lot of streetwear in South Africa, where it's influenced by the culture, the music, the Mapantsulas. I mean, you have a lot that's happening, and you have that in Brazil, which is the carnivals that they have, which is part of their culture. Then you have with the Indians, and then you have the Chinese. So there's a lot of, you find different similarities based on history, and you tie that in with their culture and the different regions that they have in the country. Yeah.
And David, what's the role of storytelling for you as a luxury designer? Because that's who you are. What's the role of that?
Maybe like before I answer the question, how many of us have been to South Africa here? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm gonna put this out to you. Do yourself a favor, come visit us in South Africa, because we get it, we have it going on.
Yes.
Come and visit us, and you can experience everything that we're telling you now. You can just have it in your mind. Wait until you come. You'll be like, I'm actually relocating to South Africa. Yeah. It is, I promise you that.
Absolutely.
So the narrative as a luxury designer is that we have evolved from how we started building the brand David Tlale in 2003. This is coming from our raw materials. When we used to buy our raw materials from Europe, we're at a space now, our raw materials are actually made in South Africa, because we pride ourselves with product that is proudly made in South Africa. Tomorrow night we are showcasing at 6 p.m. I would say 95% of that collection, the raw materials actually come from South Africa, whether it be weaving, the prints, and actually the garment making, everything else comes from South Africa. So our story is that we need to start believing in who we are as South Africa, because we have it going. Many years ago, people don't know that the likes of YSL, Dior, and currently the likes of Michael Kors do actually manufacture in South Africa, because we have huge, I would say, raw materials and huge skilled laborers in South Africa. So our standing point is that we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we want to tell the story of who we are. Because, like Greg said, we work very hard. We work 10 times harder to prove ourselves to the world that we can do it. And we look at the beautiful brands that have merged out of South Africa, like Tebe Magugu, who has won the LVMH prize, and Cindy So, Musa Maxwell, who have won the Woolmark prize. That simply tells you that there's something beautiful that is brewing in South Africa. So we are on a journey of building South Africa to become the hub of manufacturing in the continent of Africa. And we're speaking with Vusi earlier on that we have to start a movement of saying, let us support made in South Africa, because we have it, we understand it. Because when you think about manufacturing that used to happen in Cape Town, one of the companies that you used to manufacture for YSL and also shoes for Dior and stuff like that, that craftsmanship means it's still there. That skill is still there. The only sad part is that these people have retired. Now this skill is slowly disappearing and nobody's going to pass it on to the next generation. Our responsibility as the current generation is to say, let us believe in what we have. Let us tell the stories like we know it, because we can change the economy, we can change the technology, we can change the lack that we are going through right now as a country, and to make sure that we come out shining at the end of the day. And thanks to BRICS and also this platform, so that we can actually be the drivers of change. And earlier on, I was sitting in one of the classes that Greg was giving earlier, and another designer from Cote d'Ivoire to saying, there's something really beautiful that is brewing in Africa. It is time for Africa to shine, and it's time for BRICS to actually come together. Let's have a collaboration between Russia and South Africa. I think that would be like super amazing. A designer from here and a designer from South Africa, or even a musician or even an artist, just cross-pollinating and create something beautiful. And then the creative sector becomes the advocate for this BRICS movement, because the creative sector, as much as people think like, they're just making craftsmanship and just singing, they're making clothes, we are the economic force of the world. Because I believe, who's wearing clothes here today?
Everyone.
Don't say all of us. Who's wearing clothes right now?
None of us.
Are we all wearing clothes right now?
Yeah, we are.
I'm wearing clothes. We all wearing clothes, right? Have we ever thought about who's making those clothes? Never thought. Do you know where those garments that you are wearing, the shoes, the underwear, the clothes, who made it? Do you know where it comes from?
No.
So we gotta come back and say, this industry is powerful.
Yeah.
Let's collaborate, let's build it, and let's make it count within this BRICS sector, because we have the power to change the narrative.
And Greg, speaking of changing the narrative, how can that collaboration look like for BRICS and perhaps the Cape Town College of Fashion Design? If you were to paint a picture for someone who is listening to us now in the audience, how can that collaboration between South Africa and BRICS or Russia look like?
From a student perspective, I'm going to start there. Sort of exchange programs have always been very valued in education, specifically on a postgrad level, where one gets to experience a different methodology of teaching and a different approach. Embedded in our current curriculums, the storytelling and the craftsmanship and sustainability are the pillars of fashion education in South Africa currently, and is where we explore the most in depth. Alongside, obviously, the resurgent growth in our manufacturing arena, specifically in Cape Town. Government has generously funded us largely in the manufacturing sector, and we are, the second phase is now looking after SMEs, which will be assisting the local designers. So idealistically, an exchange program of all format is what is ideal. For me, to grow as a successful designer, you do need to experience more than just your continent.
Yes.
And you need to engage with people.
Yeah.
I think the more successful designers are those, or the more successful, I'm going to not limit it to designers, but the participants in the industry, and that is somebody that is a show producer even, or an assistant on an event like this, grows and contributes back to the local economy or the development of each sector by exchange. So for me, more opportunities should be created within the BRICS countries to afford the next generation opportunities to learn and to bring it back. You know, it's not that countries do it better, they do it differently. And through that learning difference, one is able to articulate your own voice. When I was younger, there was no social media, and we had to travel, and we had to go to fashion weeks, and that was the exposure you had to learning about fashion. It is what you did with all that knowledge and how you applied it back home that made the difference. So any conversation that should be had is important part of our development. One of the fundamental things is that the BRICS community is a very distinct community now. I'm fortunate enough it's my third year here, and I've sustained relationships with people that I've met on the first event that happened, and we are doing things together. And that's creating opportunity, not for us, it's creating opportunity for the next generation. And that essentially is what every opportunity is about, is improvement for every region.
Tinyiko, I think you'd agree with the exchange. We had a conversation yesterday where we were talking about internships. And so before you speak on the exchange program, just tell us what a typical South African student who is studying fashion is interested in. What would they like to do after? Then you can tell us why it's important for us to have these exchange programs.
I think one thing I've seen in today's design student is that they are not necessarily the kind of student that will want to sit behind a machine and be part of a production line. Those are not their dreams. They have dreams of writing stories. They have dreams of creating narratives through pictures. They have ideas and concepts that I also sometimes have difficulty placing, but I think what I'm realizing is there's an openness to being able to create the kind of work that I'd want to do. And I guess our responsibility is then exposing them to the different pools of knowledge that could get them there. A lot of the time, I've really just noticed that teaching them how to sew, teaching them how to make a pattern is really a foundational understanding that makes them maybe realize what it takes to do the thing. So if they then want to then create this elaborate story, they have an understanding that if I need these types of looks, it'll take this long. And I think it also creates a certain type of valuing of then what it is to produce and be a producer. It is difficult, I think, particularly in Johannesburg, because the fashion industry in Johannesburg is more markets, marketability, experience. It's not really the production and making of things. The production and making of things happens with things like textiles, where you have small businesses that are then creating interesting textiles from digital experiences and experiments. And those are all really cool. I think there is an emergence of a new kind of fashion industry within Johannesburg, which is not necessarily housed in factories, but it could literally be in someone's bedroom because they have access to a camera and they can articulate themselves in a certain way, and that gives them the opportunity to be able to, yes, I'm going to say it again, what we've been talking about, right? Tell their stories or other people's stories. So, yeah, I think for me, also being a lecturer is trying to find then these opportunities for the students, because what I'm noticing is even though they have these very fantastical, elaborate dreams, and there is a definite knowing about who it is they are, and who it is they see themselves walking in the world. So I think my responsibility is to fully expose them to as many things as possible so that they at least know where to go if they're looking for certain tools, who to talk to, if it is, you know, kind of creating collaborative formats and those types of spaces. And I think just also speaking to international collaborations, I see real value in shared classrooms, shared educational spaces. And I think particularly because we do have the internet that connects us, there really shouldn't be any boundaries, you know? So being able to have students from another country digitally in my classroom with my students is something that has been really valuable for our engagements, and not just for the students, but I think for us as lecturers as well. I'll just give a quick example. One thing that I do with my design students, I don't really like sitting behind tables and being very formal. I think for me, ideas are generally best shared in a circle. So we will sit in a circle, we will go outside and take off our shoes and really experience the environment in which we're in. And what I realized when we did that with a group that was from another country, they thought that that was really valuable, because one of the lecturers said to me that her students really find it difficult to share their ideas, and she thought maybe they were intimidated, but being able to sit in a circle where we're in a shared space has actually helped them feel a groundedness in the way that they share their ideas. So I thought that was really great to have another lecturer see something that I was doing and find it valuable and useful in their practice with their students. And I think equally for me as well, there are a lot of things I'm learning from other educators that are really valuable. And these are things you wouldn't think of, because you don't know what you don't know. You kind of, need to have an experience and realize that you're perhaps at a deficit in order to grasp onto something and be able to make it work. And I think because we all want goodness, we all want our students to thrive, we want them to be grand, and we want them to be able to explore and experience the world, For me, I'm really pushing for more shared classroom spaces. I mean, the modules we teach may be different, but I think ideally, foundationally, the concepts of what it is to create clothing and what that means to us as people is very much about how it is we want to be in the world, I don't think that changes anywhere in the world.
Cool. Before I go to Vusi, Greg, you wanted to add on?
I just wanted to add on one of the biggest fundamental shifts, and I've been around a little bit longer than you have, so I walk in your space today. But looking back 20 years ago when a fashion student, came into fashion school, they would talk about, I want to be a buyer, I want to be a fashion editor. What I find so phenomenal is that 100% of people entering fashion academic spaces are saying that I want to be a creative brand myself. And I do want to give kudos to people like David, who they make reference to, who have done the hard work that young black Africans may now dream, and those dreams do become a reality, and we are no longer marginalized. So it's incredible for me to hear that that is your total experience, because the shift was so long.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see that the work that people like David has done has had such a major impact.
And Vusi, what would you say South African, Departments of Arts and Culture's commitment to just the cultural diplomacy in fashion? So if someone is here, because I think in terms of the exchange program we're talking about, South African students will benefit, Russian students will benefit, students within the BRICS country. What's the commitment of the department in terms of that?
I think for us, maybe let me begin by saying that we, in fact, started to have what we call cultural seasons some time back. Okay. And I think we enjoyed some of the relations that we had when we did Russia cultural season some time back. And
can you explain what that was, the cultural
seasons? Is a cultural program where we bring South African artists to a particular country where they then get to expose their culture through music, through fashion, and through all of that. And that becomes, of course, an exchange when they also visit the counterpart, and then they do the same. They can expose it in a different manner, whatever that, that exposes them to their culture. I think it was pretty much earlier 2016, 17, when we had Russia cultural season, where we expose some of the fashion designers. And it's funny how in the department or in the ministry how they explain, because I hate the design division, and when they talk about the unit, they call it fashion and design, and I've been trying to inform them that in fact it's not, it's design unit. But so it shows how fashion has been the leader in terms of the department, in terms of putting it in front, and how we've managed to put it as a tool that we expose people to our culture. Fashion has been the lead. Even when we came here, we made sure that South African fashion designers are the ones who are leading the program, besides music, but fashion was one of the core ones. And I think with regards to the mutual agreements that we do have, we enjoy with basically all the BRICS countries and of course the members, we have tried to make sure that in terms of the cultural corporations that we do have, we try to sign. And I think for maybe more so, looking at how we can enforce or kind of make sure that the trade agreements between the countries are of ease.
Stephen, for those who don't know, what is Soweto Fashion Week? But I don't necessarily want to only hear what, I'm sure a lot of people would have heard Soweto, so let's talk about Soweto and why, in terms of storytelling, it's a very crucial part of who South Africa is, and then step into Soweto Fashion Week.
Okay, Soweto is such a beautiful place. I mean, it's in most spaces categorized as the heartbeat of South Africa because of what and how South Africa gained its independence. and how the oppressive system of apartheid came to an end. And that happened in Soweto majorly, obviously different parts of the country. However, Soweto was a driver of that. So that also inspired, because most people, they know, I mean, those who follow the history of South Africa, you know, the fight against apartheid, you know, the revolution, most of it majorly took place in Soweto. And that area was created, you know, to sort of limit the person of color from movement and many other things. The beauty of it now is that there's been a bit of development in that area, obviously not as much as people would like, but I think the Johannesburg government has done a good job in terms of roading that area and putting fresh, you know, turning it into a national treasure as best as they could. Obviously, they could do more. And there's museums there. You've got 2 Nobel Peace Prize winners, Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, that resided in the houses are now museums. So it made sense. I mean, the rich history of Soweto to be a sort of a driver in the fashion space. That's when we started the Soweto Fashion Week. Because of the different cultures that came together to reside there for jobs, different tribes moved to Soweto during that time. So you have like a mix of almost all the tribes of South Africa there in Soweto. The culture and the fashion began to come out of it. You know, you'd see a lot of people fashionable, elderly men, you know, the way they would design, you know, wear their clothes, style themselves, was very interesting. And it sort of came out as a new culture of where people can actually look at or look into to be inspired. And, you know, they would share that with their neighbor, they would share that with the fellow right in the township. And that, you know, people started talking that, you know, fashion seems to be coming out of Soweto, you know. So, yeah, that's when we then, it inspired us creating trying to build it as a fashion capital, not only in South Africa, but globally. And I think to a certain extent we have succeeded. I believe so. We're here in Russia today. We've been around the world, and people come from around the country, designers, even people, media people, and every player in the fashion space comes to either showcase or attend or participate in one way or the other, and which has been beautiful. I mean, even the facilities there. I mean, it's amazing how people have tried to develop that space whereby people can continue to be inspired by it. Yeah, so we've driven it now, and I mean it's amazing. And the whole idea is to make sure that cultural aspect, that rich historical cultural aspect, remains, and people continue to be inspired by what came out of it, the beauty. So they turned the beast into beauty, and I think that's what we are all trying to build, and in that space.
Okay. David, let's talk about sustainability. I think you started on the journey of sustainability before it became a thing. So let's talk about how sustainability has helped your brand to continue to grow globally as well. Because for those who don't know, David is not only, he doesn't only design for South Africans, he's a global designer who's showcased across the world, actually.
Thanks for that PR moment. I think our journey as a brand, David Tlale, is more than, you know, sustainability. That is now the trend, and everybody's jumping onto the wagon of like how to become sustainable. And it's something that Greg was speaking about earlier on. It's sustaining the craftsmanship, because you may come with developments and aesthetics and everything else, new technology of coming up with fabrics, but if you don't know how to craft it into something beautiful, it's pointless. So we've got to sustain craftsmanship in our communities. And I know, I think Tinyiko was talking about the current generation of designers or creatives. They want to tell the narrative, the way they see themselves in it and stuff like that. But it's very, very important that at grassroots level, we sustain and maintain craftsmanship in our own communities. It doesn't matter whether it comes from the rural area or urban areas. Craftsmanship is what defines a brand. Craftsmanship is what defines a country or even a continent. And we've got to make sure that we sustain and preserve the beauty of making absolutely beautiful garments. Because Greg will tell you, as a lecturer, and I also was a lecturer, Tinyiko is a lecturer, it's very interesting in the current, like in this Gen Z age, everybody wants to be fabulous. Nobody wants to do the hard work. Hard work is what really actually makes great brands last for generations and generations and generations. And in our brand, David Tlale, is that we've got a program called The Intern by David Tlale, where we take young designers from universities or self-taught, we train them, introduce them to the industry, and some of the brands that are running currently in South Africa actually trained with us. The first thing that we do, it don't matter how beautiful your garment is, we take off the frills, the feathers, the beads, and we look at, is your corset fitting right? Is this lapel sitting perfectly? Are these pockets done perfectly? If that is not in place, we have a lot of work to do. Now, our biggest thing is that's where sustainability starts from. Preserving the craftsmanship. Because 10, 15 years from now, you may be fabulous today, but 10, 15 years from now, will you still be relevant? So we've got to preserve culture, craft, and skill more than anything else. Because, like I said earlier on, in South Africa, we still do manufacture. There are companies that manufacture for global brands, and we have to make sure that the people that are actually doing the work, whether it be from leather, and I mean in South Africa, maybe some of you don't know, we have a huge farm in Oates Warren where they farm ostrich, and we export a lot of ostrich feathers and ostrich eggs out of South Africa. So ostrich shells and stuff like that. And some of I think the lady here, she's wearing a jacket with ostrich feathers. You might find that those ostrich feathers come from our country. So I'm saying those things that we have in our country, we have to make sure that we preserve and we maintain a very high ethical skill and labor that is actually, I'd say, sustainable, but beyond that, that can stand the test of time, and beyond my time while I'm on earth, and beyond Greg's time and all of us here. We've got to make sure that craftsmanship is the code of the day beyond anything else. Because we look at beautiful brands like Chanel, the craftsmanship that goes into just making one jacket takes days and days and days. It's not overnight, shake and bake, and it's ready. It's all the handwork that goes into it. And they have managed to preserve that culture, and that's what we need to learn from.
Thank you, David. So what I'm going to do now, I just asked for a microphone so we can ask a few questions. While you're thinking of your questions, I'll just give each of our panelists maybe just 1 minute to do what I want to say, dispelling South African myths. So I want you to say South Africa is or South Africa is not. Okay, so perhaps let me start with you, Greg. So South Africa is, so for people who are here to say this is what South Africa is or South Africa is not, to dispel any myths that people may have had. And then after that, we open the floor for some questions.
Firstly, there's no lion in my garden, in my backyard. But then South Africa is a competitor.
Stephen?
I would say South Africa is a global player.
Absolutely. Vusi?
South Africa offers a diverse culture, nice experience, and of course, we very creative.
David?
South Africa is fabulous. You look at all of us, we are from South Africa. And come, visit us and experience. There's one thing that we do very well. We call it, people will call it barbecue. It's a braai.
Yeah.
Best meat that you can ever find in the whole world. And I say, and I mean this. And also Russia, they try. Shut up. Because we're competing with Namibia with the best meat. But you're still in the southern. Cross one road, you get it from us. So last night we had dinner with a friend. I was like, well, the meat here is not as bad. But come visit and taste South African meat. We've got the best.
I will say South Africa is everything beautiful and beyond. We have the best food, the best people. We dress really, really well, and we look really good, actually. Tinyiko?
Yeah, this one's a little tricky for me. I'll say South Africa is ahead of its time. I think we are future forward, and that's just in our being. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Thank you. So, questions? Do we have any questions on the floor? Don't be shy. Any questions? Yes, question there. Thank you. It's not on?
Yes, hi everybody.
Hello.
My name is Arina. I would like to ask you, so I know now in fashion there is a big competition, so definitely there are many African countries who are participating in this industry. So what could spotlight exactly South African fashion, how it can be different?
Okay. I think, David, I think the question is, you heard the question?
Yeah, how different is South African fashion?
Yeah, from African fashion.
I mean, the way I think I see it is that we are not only just communicating our traditions, we communicate technology. Like I say, 80% of what I'm wearing is made in South Africa. We are trying to reinvent new ways of doing things as a country. We're embracing technology, and young people today, if you go out in the clubs or bars or anything else, there's one beat that you'll hear. It's called Amapiano. And I know most of us dance to that. Sometimes you don't even know what you're saying, but there's this beat that we have as South Africans. We translate that in our clothing in terms of how we embrace shape, form, texture, and color. I mean, someone was speaking about the Ndebele culture, and also he was speaking about it earlier this morning. Before color blocking was in fashion, we've been doing it as South Africans.
Yeah.
You look at the likes of Dr. Esther Mahlangu, an amazing artist. That's generations before even my mom was born, we were already doing color blocking. And then the trend analysts, they come to Africa or South Africa, they're like, oh my God, there's this beautiful trend that is coming in, color blocking. We have been doing it. Tinyiko did say that we are ahead of our time.
Yeah.
Now it's time that we are telling our stories because we know them, we've experienced them, and we set the trends continuously.
Wow. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Thank you, thank you. Yes, yes, thank you.
No, it's okay. Translate. Sorry. We got it.
Hello, technology. Hi, everyone. My name is Ludmila. I'm a fashion photographer, and I represent Raf Sardarev designer. You probably heard of him. You've been talking a lot about collaborations, and you've been talking about your fashion. Have you ever had a collection made of Russian-made fabric? Why am I asking? Because Raf Sardarov has a collection made of South African fabric. If you're interested, I can show you later. But do you have a collection? Perhaps your designers are using Russian materials, Russian fabric. Perhaps national fabrics, not only Russian, but are from other countries.
I do think that designers, fashion designers, maybe David or Greg or even Stephen can answer, do use different fabrics from different countries. I don't know if we specifically have a Russian collection, so to speak, but I do know there's a lot of collaboration. Yeah, Greg?
We definitely utilize fabrication from around the world. I must say our access to Russian-specific fabric has been limited in the past, and that is part of this solution, which is the BRICS Summit is introducing concepts like fabric exchange and design exchange. So yes, it's great that Russian designers have been able to utilize our products as they have been for decades. We were one of the largest wool fiber manufacturers in the world until a couple of years ago, and that's on the resurgence. So it would be a wonderful collaboration like the designers exchanged garments a couple of years ago and reinterpreted them, used dead stock and reinterpreted them. It would be an ideal opportunity for us to exchange fabric or garments and upcycle them.
And I think on my side, from a magazine perspective, I mean, I work at GQ South Africa, so we can definitely collaborate in terms of doing a lot of photo shoots and things like that. We've got some brands overseas that we've worked with, so definitely that's something that we are open to. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I think we did. We have an exchange with the Fashion Council. There's some designers that came to South Africa just last year, and what we did see is a lot of similarities in terms of fabric that was being used. So we've seen, I think we have all the fabric in South Africa the same way that your Russian designers have South African fabric. I think when it comes to fabric, it's borderless now, because you have all these designs all these fabrics all over the world now. You go online, you shop, you can order the Russian fabric and bring it home. So yes, we did. Then there was a comparison that took place, one of the publications, and there was a lot of similarities. And there was a lot of, Russian fabric being mixed with South African fabric. So that has already taken place, and I'm sure in the next couple of years, it's going to be more.
Thank you. One more question there.
Do you have South Africa Fashion Week?
Yes, we do. We've got 4 fashion weeks, if I can think of. Actually, there's actually more. We've got Soweto Fashion Week, where Stephen Manzini, he is the director of Soweto Fashion Week. We have Africa Fashion International. We have SA Fashion Week. We have Week of Fashion, which is in Cape Town. We also have Free State Fashion Week. So we do have Fashion Week in South Africa. And we also do the different seasons. Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Rakhi from India, and I come here as a buyer. So we would love to explore more designers from there as well. So I think it should be a cross-country thing. We could collaborate something, or so I think if you could send us the details about the Fashion Week, like which is the main one, because I can understand it coming for so many, it's not possible. But yes, we would love to explore designers from South Africa to India.
Yeah.
I think that's a great market. Yes.
I think these 3 gentlemen from Stephen, David, and Greg are the 3 gentlemen to speak with. But definitely that would be great. This is why we do this, actually, so that we're able to collaborate on an amazing scale.
Yes. So we would love to be invited.
Absolutely, we're already there.
Love to come there, yes. Would love to explore your designers as well, yes.
Thank you so much. One last question, if there's anyone. Oh, yeah, there's a question. Yeah. Oh, two more, then yeah, then we can close the floor. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Terry from the Seychelles Fashion Week, and I've invited a lot of South African designers to Seychelles. And my question for you today, you have been one of the countries that started BRICS. So how do you see the whole BRICS and the summit will help Africa? You as being the leader, so that all the countries in Africa will have the same path so that they can develop their fashion industry, especially a small island states as the Seychelles. Our fashion week is 8 years old, and right now we have models in South Africa attending South Coast Fair with Sister Fellas. I don't know if you know her, but we have very good relations with South Africa, and we would like to improve on it or have the best of the best from South Africa to come to Seychelles. And you know, we are an island states. Tourism is our best selling point. Thank you.
Perfect. Stephen?
I think it all starts with conversations. I mean, we can explore and discuss how collaborations, but we are open to working with African countries. It has to align also with us, as you say, that we are a leader in terms of the African continent. However, it's always partnerships, mutually beneficial partnerships. So if you have a designer that does, I mean, I already know one of our designers came from us that is with you, Precious Lulu. She's very well with, especially those coastal designers, because they're already doing the coastal wear, beach wear and stuff like that. So those are the kind of collaborations that would be fitting, because I don't know if a designer who does winter would fit in a country like Seychelles. However, yeah, it's conversations, then from there, alignment, and then partnerships.
All right, cool. Yes,
for me, I think we need to develop some kind of framework that I think that will guide the BRICS conversations in terms of how we can have mutual agreements within the partner countries, of course, the other partners also as well. And I think it will assist a lot if that could be developed so that, you know, we can move from conversation to, of course, operational. I think probably that could be the best for me right now.
Cool, thank you. One last question, then we have to close. Oh, okay. So unfortunately, that last question we won't be able to ask because we ran over time. But we are still here, we're still around if you're able to ask it off stage. But thank you so much for joining us for this conversation about South Africa. We do hope that you learned quite a bit and we will be able to continue to engage and collaborate. Thank you.